I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl who looked good. I would call her. I wish I had a rabbit and a hat with a bat and a 6'4" Impala. I'm the Grizz, and you're listening to the Barely Coherent Podcast. Your hosts, recovering from being shot by Beth Smith because she has no bad memories of him, Snowy B, Daniel Borden.
That was good.
Yeah.
2 thumbs. Good. Thank you.
And the sole reason for your weekend safety briefing, Sonny B, aka Billy Weisinger, who you can find on Instagram at C of Cynicism. That is the letter C of and cynicism. You can figure out the spelling on your own.
We don't spell here. In fact, I don't even know if I spelled it correctly. So good luck, everyone. Thanks for the intro, though, Grace.
So what are we talking about today, boys?
I like to.
Phone one. This is our first video recorded pod.
Yeah, let's address that first.
Big event. It's a big event.
It's been a long road, 4 episodes in, and we're finally getting to show our faces. And if I'm being frank with you, I don't know if that's going to gain us followers or lose us followers, but I'm happy that it happened. So I'm glad we're fucking here,
Yeah, we made it.
Thrilled.
We made it.
Yeah. They are watching 3 middle-aged men figure out technology.
I am
real
not
time.
middle-aged.
You will shut your dirty little mouth.
I'm not middle-aged.
I am
Hopefully
middle.
not, because that means that
I'm
60
in
is
the
all I
middle
get.
of something. Yeah.
A midlife crisis.
Yeah. 30 is a new 20.
Yeah.
That's what people who are 30 say.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because if you go on with that exact logic, you just keep going further and further back, it just gets creepier and creepier.
It does.
It does. Yeah. It stops working really quickly. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Talking about
first video episode. So.
Yeah. So talking about 3 dudes slowly figuring out technology. Let's talk about the generation that has grown up with this technology and how it may be impacting their little lives. There was an article that just came out entitled "Gen Z Shocked to Learn Their Digital Footprint Could Ruin Job Prospects."
Is the New York Post a reliable source for information? I don't think they are.
I don't think they are.
So no one is. And the first, last week, the first time ever, I went and I looked up a source, right? So because what they'll do is they'll use tweets. So hey, fans outraged over whatever, right? And someone's like, I can't believe I don't know, Jimmy Garoppolo, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, something about Jimmy Garoppolo. Right. And I looked up, and there's a lot of people I follow on Twitter who are pretty in-depth, I guess commentators. And so I didn't recognize this person. I was like, oh, maybe this is somebody I know. It wasn't I wasn't trying to fact check this article, but I clicked on it, and the dude had 4 followers. I'm like, how'd you even find this person? And it made me think this could just be literally a throwaway account for the publicist, for the editor who's like, hey, I'm going to go into my throwaway account. I'm going to write Jimmy Jesus scumbag or whatever. And then you're going to quote that and say fans are outraged. And technically that's not a lie, right? Because they're like, no, there's a real quote from somebody on Twitter. So, it's all bullshit, really.
Yeah. Well, so if you read this article, right, from the New York Post, it's based off of one person's account of them losing out on a job that they relayed over TikTok.
Yeah.
So based off one person, they've decided on the title that all of Gen Z is shocked to learn this.
So do you remember a couple years back, I think that that young lady that got an internship or
for NASA?
For NASA. It was was it an internship or
she got hired,
it was a job. Yeah, it was a job she got. Yeah. And she posted on Twitter I just got a job at NASA, suck my balls or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I would say.
Yeah, and then the lead, the director of hiring or somebody at NASA was like, that's inappropriate language. And she was like,
can't.
fuck you, old man.
Yeah. And then like the next day he was like, and fired.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Which that's really just a lesson of like, just know who you're talking
know
to.
who you're talking to. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, because here's the thing, the issue, because he didn't have an issue with the initial comment. All he said was like, language, young lady. That's all he said. She could have been like, you're right, my bad. Like, private message, I'm gonna delete that right now. I'm professional, I'm just excited, thanks, bye. Right? And she spent like 2 minutes Googling his name. Like, is this somebody who might be following a NASA account, you know? But I digress.
Yeah. I also like, it's not like, this kind of paints as like a pitfall for Gen Z, but it's not only Gen Z that falls into this trap.
Absolutely not.
I myself have gotten in trouble at work for pictures that I have posted online.
I forgot about that.
So it's not a Gen Z pitfall.
Story time.
Is,
well, you can't talk about it. It's top secret.
I would prefer to not talk about it because I got a very small slap on the wrist that it could have been a lot worse. But that being said, like, it's a pitfall that everybody falls into, and I think we forget how visible our social medias can be. And in today's job hiring prospects, where so much is done, you know, on Twitter. And social media, that we have to remember that, like, especially like if we had this level of social media when we were just entering the job market, we would have had the same problems. It's not a Gen Z problem, but it is kind of like a, hey, once you are starting to enter the corporate world, maybe it's time to start scrubbing or your social media, or maybe not having it so public.
Dude, I got a quick story. So I just got back from Tennessee. And the guy that I was up there with, he was in the Navy with me. He got kicked out because of what he posted on the command's Facebook page.
Oh.
So here's what happened. And it's like
lovely.
a twofer. So you know that saying, like, never commit two separate crimes at the same time, right? Just commit one crime, right? Yeah. So he committed 2 crimes at the same time. So what he did was he skipped a mandatory captain's call, right? And he had to do something, I guess, at medical, and then like that appointment got canceled. And then he called a supervisor, like, "Hey, appointment's canceled. Technically, I can come in and go to that, or you can just like be like, you're good to go, bro. Like, don't worry about it, you know." So he's like, "Yeah, you know, you're good to go, bro." So he goes home, and he's at home just fucking around on his phone. And the CO of HM14 posted something like, "Hey guys, no, the Ohms Bubman posted it, but like it's his page, right? He sees it, you know." So she posted like, "Hey guys, the new people coming back from deployment, you know, we're gonna send some volunteers out there to like welcome them when they get off the plane from the airport to kind of show them some support." And he thought to himself, like, "Dude, I've been on like 3 deployments. Like, no one's ever even come to us. No one's done anything for us. Like, where is this coming from?" And he basically voiced that on the post that the CO read, like, directly. And he was like, "Dude, like taking a personal shot at him, right?" Oh, we just lost Billy. And when they look at the timestamp, they're like, "You wrote this during my captain's call." He was like, "You literally threw shade at me online while you should have been at my captain's call." And then look at the timestamp, like, "Dude, you're fucking done. You're fucking done, son. You're out of here." So they kicked him out of the fucking Navy because he threw shade at the CO during a mandatory captain's call. I was like, oh god.
So, I mean, that can't be like the first thing that he ever did wrong.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's
like
never
15.
So in my experience in the Navy, and this is a little off topic, but people get kicked out for any number of things. But very often when someone gets kicked out, it's a very small thing. And if you looked at it from the outside, you would be like, why are they kicking him out for that? That's such a silly thing. But so often it's like a string of problems that have occurred.
Oh no, I agree.
And then like this little thing was just the straw that broke the camel's back. So
no, for sure.
I find that very interesting that it's a common theme among separations or forced separations.
They just needed a reason. They're like, "We don't like you. You're done.
Yeah.
we're gonna kick you out. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have at least half a dozen stories of people getting kicked out, and you're like, oh, I mean, he didn't really do anything at all. But then you look
You look-
behind the curtain, and it's like, ooh, he maybe should have been gone a while ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
It's,
agree.
So, but
probably a time when he should have been stepping lightly.
yeah. I mean, that's just you can't do things like that. you can't throw shade when you're not where you're supposed to be. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been given a gift and you fucked it up.
Well, that was me,
Yeah.
right? I was given a gift, a little slap on the wrist, and I've been stepping quietly ever since. And if anybody's
As you
noticed,
should, friend. As you should.
there have been 0 posts from anything work related on any of my social media
Yeah.
because of that. And it's not that I'm upset or anything. I technically broke the rules, and I understand that I got lucky. So I'm gonna keep rolling.
Considering who is really like who's in charge of you, that could have been significantly worse. So
but the point I found interesting in this article, which was something that I was aware that was happening, but I think like a lot of us have forgotten about, was so this TikToker or this individual whose name is on this article, Jaden, had been hired or had done an interview, felt the interview went really well, and then it was later she was contacted and saying, that she had not gotten the job after a background check due to some social media stuff. They don't really get into what she had posted on social media. I don't think it really matters necessarily, but that is something that a lot of people leaving, even older people leaving a job that they've had for a while and trying to go into a new one might, forget. We've seen it time and time again, where people who are well established in their jobs, even after working a job, had posted stuff on Twitter and then lost their jobs because of it.
Yeah, I mean, that is some might say a certain kind of culture that is afoot, but I think that oftentimes people, especially in the past, felt like they could say things on the internet with zero impunity, or without anything happening to them at all. And I guess it doesn't really matter to an employer when they find those things. If you're a representation of your company, I mean that's a road that they have the right to take, I guess. So I don't know. Just be careful what you post on the internet is really.
Yeah,
we should all know that.
The people that get upset about that, like they make it like a First Amendment issue. I'm always so perplexed because I'm like, it's a private company, right?
Yeah,
they have like, they could fire you for any reason, literally anything. They just like, I don't like your face, and you're fired.
Well, I mean,
right?
It depends on the state you're in, the county you're in,
sure,
all
but
this stuff,
you
right?
could still get. But my point is that you could get fired for no cause in a lot of places. Just because, like, here's your separate, or here's your severance pay, and goodbye.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's a conversation about how people interpret the Constitution. I mean, most people spew
people like sound bites.
Yeah, about like that's protected by free speech, or my Second Amendment right, whatever. Everybody has their interpretation, but just like you have an interpretation, someone else has an interpretation. And
the best thing about anti-soundbite, right? So I know people like feel a certain way about Joe Rogan, but like Joe Rogan was the anti-soundbite, right? He was just like, we're gonna have a long form discussion about everything, right? Which of course, for anybody who doesn't know, I'm sure if you do, which is that he has some controversial characters that are getting a platform to a lot of listeners that people don't like those controversial people having. But point is that those sound bites, man, like I've noticed, like if you go to almost any place, nobody has those like really bigoted or strong stances when you talk to them in person, right? So like where are these like really extreme sound bites coming from?
I don't know, man. I think that the internet creates these people. There's like a question of whether or not is it allowing someone to be their whole self, like what they really feel like they want to be, or is someone putting on a show on the internet because they know that there may be little to no repercussions for what they're saying. And so like you say that, right? And
Yeah.
you're like, where do these extremists come from? But I have to wonder if there are people that aren't really that extreme that really believe those things, that they're just, when they don't let it come out all out at once when they meet someone, or even if they've hung out with someone for a couple months or whatever, you just kind of slowly start to see this extremist ideal, or this not so popular point of view
Yeah.
more and more over time.
I have two comments on that. One, we've kind of seen that argument play out a little bit with Alex Jones in court, where he's argued that he was playing a character and that's not who he really is as a person. Whether or not that who he is as a really person is definitely not as debatable as people probably think it is.
Yeah.
But we've kind of seen that people try to use that argument like, hey, this is just who I am online. Like, this is just who I am for an audience. And then to talk about Danny's point where you don't see people like act like that in person. I mean, there's probably two sides to that. One, people don't like to put up. They'd rather just shut up in person. But I think a lot of the time too, the problem with the internet and with social media and social media interactions is when you're like dealing with other people on social media, a lot of times I don't think we see them as people. Like, we just see them as like a screen name or a handle and just a Twitter person A, right? When you're dealing with somebody in person, you're dealing with a human being. I think maybe there's something different working in our minds when we're having those in-person interactions, where maybe more empathy or sensibility kind of comes out. But I mean, if you're in the position where you're spewing hateful stuff online for the views, you probably just suck in real life too.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, how many people do you think like you hear like these extremist ideas and you're like, oh yeah, they probably don't think that in real life. They're probably chill. And it's, I don't know. I mean, people are complex. People have a right to have their opinion about things or ideas about things, but also you don't have to agree with them. So share what you want, but don't say weird, heinous, fucked up shit on the internet, and then when someone calls you out on it, say, oh, that's not, I don't really believe that. That's not who I am. I don't know. Just commit to being one person or the other. That's just how I feel about it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that like one of the issues I have is whenever you get somebody who like does take a strong stance and you get them in front of you, like whether it's because they're just afraid of getting punched in the face or just good common decency kicks in, like that just goes away, man. It's weird. It's just weird. Like people just are just way different. To the point where the whole argument about like Twitter being like the modern day, town square, like in some ways I get the analogy, but it's just not, right? It's just not, like, it's not a real place. Like I love Twitter, but the comment section are always just garbage. Like it's like the weirdest I am always perplexed. Like, why would you think that? Like, why would you say that?
Why would you say that out loud?
You're a real person. It looks like with a real name, talking to a real person with a real name, and just being like, you're a fucking moron. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, you would never say that if someone was like standing in a cafe and like, oh, I'm just going to say this out loud to the public. You would hear them, you look at them, and you go back to ordering your fucking frappe. But like, because it's on Twitter, you're like, you're a fucking moron. I hope you fucking die. And I'm like, bro.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean,
it's weird. It's a weird place.
But that's so that kind of like microcosm of interaction has been present in multiplayer games for the longest time, right? I mean, since we've been playing games together, people have been saying the most ridiculous and heinous shit to each other that they would never say in person. And I something about being behind a microphone allows people to just I don't see. That's where I you brought up the point about why they're not like that in person, or why they don't show that person in person. I gotta believe that it just boils down to they're too afraid to be that out loud because they know that someone is probably going to call them on their shit.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
I don't know, but this
the beginning of this article was all of Gen Z. Gen Z just finds out.
Mhm.
I know that, like, so I hated that when they did it to millennials, when like when the boomer
they
writers
group
would be
us.
like, millennials think blah blah blah, and everyone's like, bro, like I am nothing like my fucking brother, whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you can't just group 35 million people because one person who happened to be in an age group, it's like saying like all boomers don't know how to use technology. And granted, a lot of boomers don't know how to use technology.
It's a fact.
But there's probably there's a lot of boomers out there who are running IT departments. Like, fuck you, man.
Yeah.
It's
So-
this whole it's not thin slicing, it's thick slicing.
It's
You
thick
know,
slicing it. Yeah. Just
this-
slice it. Just
this
pull it out the
idea
pan and we're like,
that, all people under the age of 25 are like, I had no idea that my internet activity would affect me getting a job. Yeah. There are lots of people who are
Dude,
significantly
we
younger
just-
than us that know
we just
that.
got a Gen Z congressman, the first Gen Z congressman, black
Did
dude.
we really?
Mm-hmm.
Why did I
Yeah.
not know that? Oh, I think I did know that. I did know that.
Yeah, he just did an article about how he's basically broke and he can't afford an apartment. Yeah, I mean,
As every politician should be.
I guess they don't get paid for like 6 to 9 months after they get elected.
Really?
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
so they make 165 a year, so they get paid well, but it takes a long time to kick in. So because of that, they basically burn all their money campaigning.
Right. You
They
gotta
go to get an apartment,
spend a ton of money campaigning.
in DC, and
which
they're
you
like,
can't do.
yeah,
No
nah.
way, dude.
No,
way.
yeah. So
No, if
it's
anybody's
like,
ever been to
24.
DC, unless they're living like, you'd have to be like way, way out on the outskirts of
Mhm.
DC, or like slumming it big time
Yeah,
to get an apartment in DC without making money. Like I can't see it.
Yeah, but I think that article just kind of reflects a little bit of like where a lot of journalism is at today, where it's like that headline grabs you, like all of Gen Z is finding out, and their example is one person,
one person,
one
TikTok.
person on TikTok.
Unsubstantiated.
maybe one
learning
person.
that lesson.
Is that even really a person? Or is that just like, hey, John, write some shit. Like, what do I write? Make it about millennials. No. We no. It's Gen Z now. Oh, well,
I don't know.
fuck
We're
them,
supposed
yeah.
to be able to trust. We're supposed to be able to trust the media to give us the truth. So.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, it's frustrating, man. Because like I could have a really contentious conversation about anything in person, and almost always someone would be like, "Okay, that's interesting." Like I can kind of see your point, but here's my point, and then that's that. I'm like, "Okay, cool. Glad we could exchange opinions politely." Like carry on. Believing that
But you
like
get on
every person
Twitter
in the world.
and you say something mildly outside of the societal norm, and people are like, hope you weren't attached to your job, your fucking family, your
It's kind of scary because so I did I'm not gonna make this about me, but my personal experience was when I went to Loyola. So I went to I took a college semester after I got out of the Navy last in the spring.
I remember.
And I was the only person who basically talked at all
in your class, like
in person, like in the class. Like we had to do group discussions, and there was a lot of stuff written, like paragraphs written. But in the class, the teacher was trying so hard to get people to engage, and they're just like, "Nah, I don't want to engage." Now, on some level, there's some wisdom to that, right? They're just like, "Look, this doesn't really affect my grade. I know participation is a part of it, but it's a small part of it. As long as I show up here, and I don't disrupt and I turn my stuff in, I'm good." But if you're only comfortable like engaging online, and the things that are said online aren't really representative of how people actually feel, then we're not actually having a real discord at any level. It's not like it's only happening in person. My contention is it's not happening at all. No one's talking. Like at one point, we were openly insulting. The people in the class, me and the teacher, about like how they don't ever engage with anything she says. And I was like asking about that as if they weren't in the room. I was like, "Yeah, why do you think that is? Why do you think they don't talk?" And they're all just sat there like quiet, looking like as if like we weren't talking about them, which is another statement unto itself about.
Well, you know how people feel about confrontation.
myself.
So,
Sure. No. Yeah. For sure. Anyway, so
Um,
what was the? I feel
So
like we got off topic there. I apologize.
no.
I do
mean,
want to make this point about the article that I was reading because we were talking about, is this a real person? There is no link to the original TikTok.
Yeah. See, and that's why the New York
the
Post,
only
in my
link
opinion,
there
is sketchy as fuck.
is to somebody who stitched that TikTok talking about how employers find this information out.
Oh, the cybersecurity pro,
Yeah,
Chris Sutherland Jr.
Yeah, so there's
He kind of looks like a cybersecurity.
he fits. Yeah, this is exactly what I would imagine they look like. So, and then a lot of their comments come from BuzzFeed News. So they like whoever wrote this article.
Oh my
Right,
Like
so
it looks like they just
Yeah.
grafted the story from BuzzFeed News.
Yeah.
Never made the effort to find the original TikTok, and then just
Sure.
clipped this other one in. So like Mike, like I don't know, was this person being genuine, or did they like
I think
actually lose a job, but they kind of knew it was going to happen, or just like, I'm going to make a funny TikTok about it?
So that's the thing about TikTok as a whole.
You could lie
There's
on TikTok. You just
so
lie.
much stuff on there that people don't realize is scripted or planned or
Clout
just,
chasing, right?
Yeah, just literally just lying. And so like I think that I'm sure that there are young people out there who are realizing the hard way that the shit that you do on the internet will follow you for the rest of your life. But I would have to say they're probably not in the majority. I would like to hope that they're not in the majority, you know? So this one article by the New York Post that was clearly very little effort on the part of Emily Lefroy, the
The
fucking
Leah Lefroy.
the quote unquote writer of this article. I think it's still a good talking point and something that everyone should probably be reminded of every now and then. So don't get in a fight with your in-laws on the internet. Don't get on someone's page and talk about how ugly their baby is. Don't, just the things that you would not do in person, just don't do them on the internet. Super easy.
Yeah.
Super easy.
Agreed.
So I don't know. That's just the plug, That's the reminder. Don't be a fuckhead on the internet.
Yeah, just listen to us. Don't listen to other people.
Don't listen.
Listen to three dudes who have no credibility.
I don't. This is a.
I have credibility. Fuck you.
Yeah, right. This is a favorite activity of mine, but I like looking at like when, journalists write articles like this. I like looking back at their previous articles.
Their other articles. Yeah.
So so she graduated from university in Australia. It doesn't state what university, which is telling.
Red flag, I believe, is what we call that.
In a whole continent, somewhere in that continent, she graduated. Got it.
To be fair, there's not a lot of life anywhere other than the edges of that continent.
So she
Not since the
posted
fire.
two articles on the 15th alone. 1, 2, 3 articles on the 16th. So she's just churning them out. But they are things such as I'm a vegetarian. Yeah, I am a vegetarian who believes all vegetarians eat or cheat and eat meat. Deranged Facebook seller lists full body knit suit with
Edgelord Emily, dude.
Yeah.
Emily the Edgelord.
I was dress coded at Disneyland, but not for the reason you might think. So she is an expert.
Can you tag her in this podcast? I want her to fucking do an article on us. Like 3 douchebags think they're better than everybody else.
Fucking millennials think they can get on podcasts and talk shit about me.
Yeah.
I'll show them.
I'll show them.
3 dudes show why podcasts shouldn't be a thing.
She gets gets an Emmy for it or whatever people get awarded for writing articles.
Yeah.
Would that make us famous too?
It would, man. Imagine all the views we would get. We should start
slandering people.
Yeah, just rip this title and just throw it on the podcast.
Honestly, so not a bad idea.
I don't like where this is going.
No. Like not like in a mean, not like especially mean way, not like a personal way. Dave Portnoy, he released. He did that brick company. The watch company.
Watch company.
Right. So this guy on TikTok reviewed it. He's like, bro, what the fuck is this? He's like, these watches look like. He's like, let me show you guys side by side.
I think I saw that. Yeah,
you saw that. Well, Dave responded to it and basically was like, "You don't know fucking shit."
Yeah.
Like, he was
In
such a
classic
dick.
Dave Portnoy fashion, he instead of like taking the constructive criticism on board and being like,
Yeah,
that is literally free. That's
free advertising.
free
Yeah.
service right there, dude.
He should have
Like,
said
he
like, "You know,
literally-
man, you're right."
he made it so much better for free. He wasn't like, hey Dave, I'll show you what I made for a $5,000 contract or whatever, right? He was like, here,
Even then,
this
pay
is-
the guy.
Yeah.
Damn, give him $5,000 and say make it better.
Instead,
And then
Dave was like, fuck you,
record
you
the
know
whole
what you're
thing.
talking about. Like, and
Yeah.
he roasted him. I mean, like the way he talked about like the setup of his website, the pictures on the Instagram, the
even
logo,
like the
oh,
text, you know? He was
yeah,
like, what is
dude.
this? Yeah,
He's like, this is
the
terrible.
pictures.
Amateur
Look
hour.
at this picture. Look at this, like, amateur hour. You know, Dave's over there just like
Steaming, bro. He was steaming.
camera on, like, you don't fucking know.
Moments before crying his fucking eyes
Yeah.
out.
Dave Portnoy's
Yeah.
going to see this and decide to not buy Battle Shots.
Dave,
Ooh.
I do. I've been talking.
Did
shit
you
to
send
Dave
it to
on
him?
Twitter. No,
You
I mean,
should.
not yet. I've been talking shit to him. I'm like, Dave, you're an idiot. Buy my game. Like, he just like see the response. Like,
Dude,
You just need to be
whoever-
like, hey man, you're not smart enough to see like the value in this game. I don't think you have that enough foresight to see like the potential
you
in this.
guys
And
are just-
he's gonna kick down your Twitter door and be like, "You're fucking stupid. I'm buying this game and I'm gonna show
Yeah.
you how big I can make
dude,
it."
No.
I'm
You're
gonna
just
challenge
harassing
Dave
some
Portnoy
intern,
to a UFC fight. Like, you're like, who? Like, you know, I'm gonna become the next Logan Paul, just beating up fucking like pseudo celebrity
Dude,
business owners. Like, I'm fighting Elon Musk after that. Who else? Would
I think
fight
you could probably take Elon in a fight.
I could definitely take Elon, but the problem is though is that Elon could
Is he
bring
bringing
all
the
of his
sink? Is he bringing the sink
20
or not?
kids. Oh, he shows up. Woo! The sink in hand. Rides in on the back of a fucking Tesla truck that's driving itself. I'm like, fuck, dude.
And it drives itself straight through the studio,
Oh my
killing
God,
several
dude.
people.
Yeah, he says it too, like, "Hey, you're allowed to bring props, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I know. I have my 2 French bulldogs, you know. Like, this will show them.
Yeah. He rolls in the Tesla semi and just transfer. Brum, brum, brum.
Dude, no, he becomes the semi, right?
He like folds back into it, like
Yeah.
like the Power Rangers getting into their
Yeah,
fucking.
he was like, I
their
was waiting
swords.
to release this, but you brought it out of me, Dan. You brought it out. He presses a button in the middle of his forehead. And
Oh my god!
his head
dude.
just separates. You know how like his chest is kind of shaped weird, right? Like it kind
Yeah.
of looks like a Tesla Cybertruck, dude. Like wheels just pop out of his shoulder blades. He gets down like this. He starts coming at me super fast.
Oh my god, dude! Love that.
Yeah. So that'd be a good time.
Oh, for sure. Honestly, I mean that's like
Pretty good.
peak. That's peak fucking like just advertisement, just influencing. That's what it is. Peak influencing. If you could fight just billionaire pseudo company owners, pseudo fucking
Well, it'd
whatever.
Be cool if, like basically like it was like a chain where so everybody that I beat, I would take their wealth if I beat them in battle, and then like I would just keep going up in rank, and then essentially people are now wanting to fight me to take the wealth that I have acquired through these battles.
I don't know.
And then,
Can
of
you
course,
think
it
you could
just
beat
builds
Jeff
and builds.
Bezos then? Because he looks like he works out.
He looks like a tough dude.
I bet you has like private like
he's
martial
the
arts.
boss. I think he's the boss level. I would have to get some experience. You know what I mean? Like like build my confidence up, right? Like to work up to Jeff.
I don't
Like,
know. I don't know.
like-
Bill
like,
Gates.
well, you could start with like your local McDonald's franchise owner.
I go regional first. Regional battles.
Yeah,
Dude,
definitely,
I'm
definitely.
taking
I
out
like that.
The Southeast, dude. Go Tigers. Dude,
That would be wild if that's how life worked. Like if that's how like you built wealth was just like
Mhm.
you just challenge, and it doesn't even have to be a physical fight. You could be like I challenge you to like a chess match or like so people just had to be on their toes, capable of anything.
You know what this was like, dude. Game of
True-
Thrones. The
true
guys
Renaissance.
who lived out on the fucking the island, bro, the Rock Island, and they took everything by the what the fuck was the term?
So,
Took
the
it by
Iron
the steel.
Islands.
Yeah.
Iron
Sure.
Islands.
Yeah, the
You had to just take it by the fucking something about taking it with steel.
I don't
was
remember.
the only way
They lost
you could,
fights.
like-
That's all I remember.
Yeah.
They got their shit handed to them. You
They
need, you need technology.
Several times.
Yeah.
I digress. Great show. Ruined by one episode.
I wouldn't say one episode. I would say probably like an entire
The season. The
Yeah.
season. But yeah, the episode was a crescendo. The creme de la creme of shit.
Dude.
Never has there been
I don't want to talk
bigger
about that. I don't want to
Shit
talk about
burger. Okay,
I
we're
don't
done. We're done. Moving on.
that. Yeah. Because
Moving
they're
on.
just going to get upset. It's,
Yeah, we're going down the river. We're moving on. Let's do
Yeah,
it.
because you're gonna get me into how the books aren't done on the.
Oh,
Yeah, we're just
no,
over here
we're-
just
don't even talk
raging
about that.
against- We're just raging against the fatty. We're like, fucking finish the books, you fat fucker, before you die.
Stop writing
like-
Elden Ring and give me a goddamn book.
Yeah, fuck Elden Ring. Sorry.
He's writing
Sorry.
Elden
I didn't
Ring
mean
books?
that. I didn't mean
No, he wrote the story for the game.
There's a story in that game?
The story for me in the game is how I can't get past like the first 10 minutes of it. But
Dude, okay, so we're gonna sidebar. We didn't plan on talking about this, but for I don't know if either of you know, but Elden Ring won Game of the Year at the Game Awards, and I have not played Elden Ring, but I think I have like a decent understanding of what the game was about, and there is no like the story is in like reading things, like stuff that you find around the world, and to me that is not Game of the Year material. It's a great game. I'm glad people enjoyed it. I know a lot of people found it a refreshing experience, and I'm super happy about that. But
I think me and you talked about this earlier because I brought it up about because you kind of experienced the same thing in Fallout and in Cyberpunk a little bit and a lot of other games like that. And my point was we have this medium of storytelling that is super interactive, right? You're playing through it, you're seeing things, you're virtually experiencing things, and so many of the time, a lot of the lore is me fucking reading
books.
And don't get me wrong,
papers.
I read. I like books,
tablets,
but I don't play video games to fucking read.
Yeah. Like you don't hop in the game, go like you're like, oh man, I'm really hungry. I'm gonna go collect some like in real life hungry and go make some stew in the game. And you're like, satiating my hunger. No, there are separate things. I eat in real life.
If I want to
read in
read,
real life.
if I want to read, I'll crack a book in real life. I don't want to have to read.
Yeah, I want to battle a troll. I go into my video game world and battle a troll. I don't go beat my next door neighbor up. Right? There's separate things for the game world.
It's such a bad problem that some of the most popular gaming videos on YouTube are people explaining the lore of games to you, so you don't have to read through the bullshit.
Oh, I love that shit. I love
do
that
too.
shit.
I love it
When
too.
someone's like,
Because
if you open this book in this,
Well, no, I
route,
fast forward to
you'll
the
read
end.
This piece of information.
I
that
just want to
tells
know
you
how it
this
ends.
happened.
I just fast forward to
See,
the very end. Like,
I like
how
the
did
story.
the vampires
I
get
like the
there?
story of it. How did the
I like
vampires
the story, but I watch those videos because anytime I encounter that type of stuff in the game, I don't read it. I
Yeah,
don't listen to the audio logs. I don't do any of that. I want to
You're
play
like-
the game.
You're like dweeb skip.
like in Cyberpunk, you have to pick up
Nerd.
all these shards that have like stories about the world, but like there's literally like hundreds of shards to read, and it's like I'm not doing that.
No,
If it doesn't have quest info in it, I don't fucking care.
some faceless
I
dude
do
with
love
the YouTube
side
channel is going to read it
characters.
to me.
I do love voiceovers. Like when some like Fallout, right? My favorite game, bar none. Like not the new Fallout. Fuck you, 76.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
every other one, pretty much every other one, like just the intricate stories of like a character coming up and being like, "Let me tell you, like my fucking life story," and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Go on." I'll listen to it.
I just shot my way through 700 undead, but I would absolutely love to listen to your story.
Yeah,
But-
I'll
but that's-
rescue your daughter from the mud crabs. You got it, bud. I'm here for you. I'm here for you.
But that is taking this interactive medium and actually using it for storytelling. and
Agreed. Agreed.
But yeah, I
Not
just hate
fucking-
when it's locked behind a you've got to take time now to read because no, bro.
You know what game does it really well?
Hmm.
God of War.
Oh,
Should have won
the
Game of
best.
the Year.
Oh,
Yeah.
Should have won Game of the Year. And people got on the internet and had the audacity to say, well, it didn't really do anything special that the first game didn't do. And I'm like, look,
the first
you
game was so good by
fucking-
itself.
yeah, and the second game is phenomenal by itself because it's
You could
great
do-
storytelling.
You could do 10
Character
versions
development.
of the first game. It would still be amazing. It's just
Oh,
10 iterations of an already amazing thing.
It's so
You know-
like it's clear to me that people don't understand.
You know what
Yes,
other
yeah.
game did it well too was Dishonored.
Oh, dude,
Dishonored
yeah.
1 and
such a
2.
good game.
Because
little old-
it is, and
little old
I love
there.
that world, and I wish we could get more of it. But so you would find these audio logs, right? And they're telling you about the background story, but like
Mhm.
it played in the
You could
background of you
play
playing the
while
game.
while you were doing shit. I love that.
Yeah. So you would just listen to this audio log and you're still playing the game and like running
Right.
around and doing whatever you're
Exploring,
doing.
picking
You
up
don't have to,
apples.
yeah, you don't, whale oil or whatever it was that society ran on. But like,
Don't you insult their commerce? Yeah.
but like it didn't take you out of the game to like sit there
Agreed.
and have to
Yeah.
read. You could still play it
You're
and
like-
get the background information.
You don't get to hit
The
pause,
worst
like,
game,
"Betsy, get my reading glasses. Yeah.
yeah, the absolute worst game at it was Destiny, because Destiny, you got
The
this
whole story was told
in
in
grimoire
the
cards.
Yeah,
and you couldn't even read the grimoire cards in game. You had to get an app on your phone, connect it to your account. So when you found the grimoire cards later, when you're not gaming, scroll through them on your phone when you no longer cared about the story.
yeah. I mean, that's why Destiny 1 was a flop.
Yeah.
I played for a week, and I was like, nope,
Yeah.
never played again. Never played again.
I mean, and we could talk about games all day, but that for some reason bugs the shit out of me that
I
this
mean,
game, which I'm sure
games-
is a good game, right? Like Elden Ring is a good game. People like it. People enjoy it. People have been talking about it since it came out. It also came out alone. It had really no competition in terms of games, but
Sure.
Santa Monica Studios put together an absolute masterpiece when they worked the work they did on God of War Ragnarok. I mean,
Amazing.
I felt for the characters. I felt for the story. I can't say that I agreed with every bit of casting that they did, but it made sense for the characters. I mean, I love the game, and it won almost every award at the Game Awards except Game of the Year, which does not make sense to me.
Yeah, and like its story is so compelling. Like I haven't played the game, but its story is so compelling that I've found myself like looking up the videos of the story because it's actually interesting.
It is.
What's sold more copies? I'm gonna go on a limb and say Ragnarok sold more copies than Elden Ring.
I actually know. Elden Ring probably sold more copies because Ragnarok is a PlayStation exclusive,
Yeah, it wasn't locked to a single platform.
which is a reason people give for why they don't think it should be Game of the Year. But just because something is an exclusive, just because you're too broke to find a PlayStation doesn't mean that it's not Game of the Year. Okay. Sorry.
Yep. Still your child's. I don't know. They don't get a Christmas. You get a Christmas.
You deserve it.
You know what
deserve
time it
a
is?
Christmas.
Your kids come up to you like, they know what time it is, and you're like, yeah, it's me o'clock. It's always me o'clock in this motherfucking house. No presents for you.
Are you projecting right now?
o'clock.
Is there some stuff that you need to talk about?
Well, I'm gonna eventually have kids. I'm gonna follow your path. My child will be younger than yours, but at some point, I'm gonna have a kid, and he's gonna learn real quickly. It's me o'clock.
Just call him boy.
He doesn't even know how to tell time.
14.
He goes
Boy.
to fucking school, and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna learn like how to tell time on the clock." And he's like,
It's me
"That's
o'clock.
wrong." He's like,
Yeah.
he's like, "That's wrong." My
There's
dad said it's.
There's 8 o'clock, there's 9 o'clock, and then around 10 it's me o'clock.
And then the rest of the day, it's just me o'clock. I don't know what to tell you, dude.
I'm
My
not allowed
daddy
to
says
talk
they ain't-
during me o'clock.
My daddy says he's so angry because he got all them teeth and no toothbrush to brush them
That's,
with.
that's well,
But so let's kind of move on. I guess in the same vein as kind of talking about different mediums, something big that kind of came across my feed is Christopher Nolan making a real nuclear explosion for a movie for Oppenheimer, which is a very Christopher Nolan thing to do, but is just like a mind-blowing idea that a director decided. He was like, I don't want no CG. I don't want
Oh,
no
yeah.
fake shit. I
Dude,
want a
I've been hearing-
real fucking explosion.
So I've been hearing like a bunch of like just random shit about Christopher Nolan's like dedication to like reality. Like
Mhm.
apparently he actually killed Christian Bale's parents.
He's kind of known for this though, right? Because if you look back at Inception and that hallway fight scene, like
They built that hallway.
rotating, They
Yeah.
built it and rotated it, and they had to like deal with that in real life while acting.
Yeah.
It wasn't CGI, but
The cornfield in Interstellar was real. He grew that cornfield specifically for that
he was
scene.
out there with till in hand. Till in
Yeah.
hand.
husking it, bro.
The scene in Interstellar where they're on that water world with the big wave, that is actually filmed on a melting glacier. They were out on a melting glacier filming that scene, dude.
And that
Wow.
robot was practical effects too.
Yeah.
There's just a dude in there on two arms, like
Christopher, my arms don't bend that way. I don't give a fuck.
That man was crippled for life, but you know what? He says it was worth it.
Did they even
But-
win an Oscar that year?
I don't. Yeah, but I do think it is like, especially when so much is it relies upon CGI. It is really refreshing when you get these practical effects in, and I think it really helps with like the visceral like nature of those scenes. Like
Yeah.
another one. This one is a Christopher Nolan movie, but Fury Road. That was all practical effects.
Yep,
all those
that's all
explosions, the
practical
crashes.
effects. Yep,
yeah, the guy on the guitar, that was real.
practical.
Blowing
effects.
fucking flames out of his guitar. That was dope.
And like
Um,
we,
you ever
we
s-
talked about this in the movie episode about practical effects versus CGI. And there was like, between the three of us, there was kind of this general idea that practical effects are definitely the superior effect that that most people enjoy, just because seeing reality makes it
Yeah.
better.
Agreed.
But I like CGI. I think you can do a lot, and I think Christopher Nolan has also shown that he is capable of making really good CGI set pieces. Like the fucking black hole in Interstellar is really fucking cool, and it looks good. So I applaud Christopher Nolan for that, for sure. Do I like his Batman movies? Not necessarily, but that doesn't mean that they're not visually appealing. I mean, they look great. Almost everything about them. So, sure, man. Fucking practical effected up, dude.
Mhm.
Kate Winslet held her breath for 7 minutes in the new Avatar movie. Or was it 9 minutes? It's something crazy.
Yeah,
That's not real. There's no way.
I'm telling you, dude. I'm gonna
get
Google
my
it.
timer out. Kate, get over. I'm gonna run behind her in public and just like my mouth, like you got this. Like, you got 9 minutes, babe. You got 9. If you pass out before then, it's on you.
but
So
like
the-
even when,
What are like the consequences though, Christopher Nolan? Going.
Well,
so,
it wasn't a,
I mean, like,
it
what does that
wasn't a real
say?
nuke. Oh, you mean like
What is? I mean, like, well, well, what's the issue? I mean, I thought it was like. I
no,
mean,
that's not a
it's-
problem.
so this is from
Well-
Yahoo News, and it says during a recent interview, Nolan revealed he recreated the nuclear test without the help of computer graphics, although it is pretty certain that the director did not create an atomic bomb for the scene. Nolan was
Yes,
quite
he
careful
did.
about what he shared.
Pretty sure.
Keyword.
Pretty sure.
Dude, I would not put it past if like there's like a special done like 20 years from now, and there's like Christopher Nolan with like a body camera like going into like Soviet Russia basically, and like with the translator like I want a nuke. They're like,
Yes.
what? He's like Batman. He's like, oh, Batman. He's like, yeah, in Russian though, whatever. He's like, I want a fucking nuke, and they're like, "Super Batman? Absolutely,
Absolutely.
yeah.
man.
And they go out to the atoll, blow it up, or film it. They're like, it's a
That's
wrap,
like
boys.
the
It's a
bomb
wrap.
that Bane had in The Dark Knight Rises. That was an actual atom bomb. Yeah.
Yeah, he went to North Korea and gave them the secrets on how to create a nuke so that they could test it.
I'm
and
just
get the
fucking with you. You
footage.
look like you believe me, and it's concerning.
Oh, like Christopher Nolan's the man.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's like build a stadium in a poor country to tell them we're making it for the new soccer stadium, then blow it up. Make sure you record their faces.
Those aren't paid actors. Those are real people.
The pit's a real place. Those are actual prisoners stuck down there.
Yeah, one of the crew members got stabbed to death. He got a little too close.
Yeah. He actually broke Christian Bale's back and forced him to recover.
Trust me, you do not want to be in a sex scene in one of Christopher Nolan's movies.
Do it for real. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh God.
God.
Oh fuck, dude.
All right.
Yeah, so I thought that was really cool. Like I said, I'm not like a super huge fan of Christopher Nolan, but he definitely does, like, his commitment to making things look as good as possible is super cool. So
I agree.
definitely.
Cool. What's our next topic of choice? What's our topic du jour right now?
Okay. I have a question for both of you. I want you to think about it before you answer it.
Okay. No.
Okay. If you could go anywhere in the world right now, like, money is no object, where would you go? Drop everything, get on a plane. You don't have to pack bags. Somebody will buy clothes for you, whatever. Just where would you go? Where do you want to go? Like, what place is like number one in your head?
Do time machines exist?
No, fucker. I'm talking about right now.
Like, you can get on Expedia and buy a plane ticket and go there.
Yes.
Time
machines exist. Shut up.
Where do you want to go? What time do I want to go to?
If I could go anywhere in the world, where would I go that I haven't already been?
Yes. That you haven't already been. No, you can go somewhere that you've been. That's tough for us.
Yeah, it is tough for us. Man. I think Iceland.
Okay.
So you go to what, Reykjavik?
Reykjavik. Yeah.
Reykjavik and Keflavik. I had the pleasure of spending the night in Keflavik, and that was enough to make me want to go back. I think it's absolutely beautiful out there.
Do you remember?
So you're going to Keflavik. That's your final answer?
I'm talking about Iceland as a whole because I would ideally.
No, you got to choose a place. You choose a place.
Yeah, Iceland of itself is a place.
You got to choose like a smaller place. You got to you got to go to a city.
You don't make the rules here.
No. Well, then I would go to Reykjavik. I would go to Reykjavik then because I haven't been there in Iceland. But I think the country.
I too want to go to Reykjavik just so I can ruin your vacation. That's what I'm going to do. That's my choice.
So
you're going to Reykjavik.
I don't know.
I'm going to Reykjavik, and then while you're there, I'm going to sit there and ruin it. Like, we're here together, bitch.
I'm pretty sure it's Reykjavik.
You can't ruin my good time. That's my choice.
Positive, Grizz. You remember when we were there and that we told that chick that your name was Christian, and she was like, "Oh, you're a Christian. That's cool."
Yeah.
It did not translate that, and I was like, "No, that's my name." She's like, "What? Your name's a religion?" It's like, "Oh my god."
I mean, to be fair, if you have like a small amount of knowledge about the naming system for Americans, there's a lot of Smiths who are descendants of people that were Smiths.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tanners who are people who used to tan
true.
things, I guess.
I don't blame her for being confused. It was just like one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, not all names translate.
Yeah. I think that.
Yeah. My last name's Cocknobbler. She's like, oh gosh.
Oh, I don't judge. Just
naughty.
Yeah. But it was a very interesting place. The food was interesting, not bad, just interesting. I think we had whale steak.
We had whale steak. Not gonna lie, at first, so whale steak, the first bite, I was like, "This isn't good," but by the time I finished the plate, I was like, I would eat whale steak every day for the rest
Yeah.
of my life. So I don't know what happened in between there, but it was
Well, because that first
so
bite, you
good.
don't know what to expect, and it's so
Yeah.
different that you're just like, I don't know if I like this. I'm gonna take another bite, and then another.
Have you ever
bite
had
leads to
liver?
Another bite.
Like cow's liver, beef liver, or like chicken livers? No. It's almost a similar texture to that, but to me it tastes better.
Yeah.
Rumor on the street is if you start eating a lot of liver, you also start taking steroids. But
Shout out to the Liver King.
Yeah.
hashtag Liver King.
Very much subprimal of him. So
Yeah.
Yeah, not alpha. That is not alpha of you, Liver
Not
King.
alpha,
Dude,
yeah.
this episode should just be calling people out. Like, I want Christopher Nolan being our DM. I want Liver King. I want Elon Musk.
what?
Like, I'm gonna kick your
Emily, who wrote that New York Post bullshit.
ass. Edgelord Emily. Yeah, dude.
Edgelord
Yeah.
Emily.
Emily Edgelord Lefroy, we're coming for you.
This is
Coming
some
for you, baby.
poor young woman somewhere just doing her damnedest to be a journalist, and we're
No, dude.
slandering
Honestly,
her name.
I trust the internet so little. That is a 50-year-old man, right? Writing under the pseudonym.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Emily
you're
Lefroy.
probably right.
Yeah, was too lazy to look up any actual colleges in Australia, so she just went to a college in Australia.
A college in Australia.
You're probably the first person to ever actually look at her like bio, and you know what I mean. So she was like,
It just says on
Australia.
it
Like, no cares.
one click.
I do it
Yeah.
all
One
the
view.
time though. Whenever I'm reading an
Do you?
article, I usually just click on to see what type of other articles people write, because sometimes
Which
be
is
like,
important.
well,
That's
because sometimes
good. I
I'll
wish
read an
more people did
article
that.
and I'll be like, I don't know if I trust this. It seems like bullshit. Then you look at like their
Yeah.
passion, like, oh no, this is a legit journalist. Like this person
No.
actually writes some pieces, you know. And then sometimes you look at
That's-
like, you know,
dude.
an Emily, and you're just like, no, this is
And Emily.
yeah.
No, I should
Uh,
do that more because I like arguing, and sometimes I say shit that I'm like, I should verify this.
You say as soon as it comes out of your mouth, you're like, "Fuck, I did not. I did not look that up."
Let me cross check this with
But
other
even
sources.
you just having that thought is better than most people who argue with people. So you're already winning.
Well, I got that thought because I would argue with people who I knew were getting bad information. Like they were like good people who just had
Yeah.
bad information.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know you're saying this because you read something or someone told you something and
Right.
you just never forgot it. And now you're just repeating it because you just are like, oh, I heard about this subject once and I'm going to say, I want to be part of the conversation. So I'm going to say this thing. And the thing
Yeah.
you said was just fucking wrong. And I'm like, nah, it's wrong. This is wrong. And I'm telling you it's wrong. And then they're just like, you know,
Well, people don't like being told they're wrong. So
No,
Yeah.
no, they don't.
anyway,
Thing.
what's your actual answer instead of being a fucking dickhead? To the question.
So I think I don't like this. I've heard this question on dates before, like where would you go anywhere in the world? And it's
well,
not a bad
luckily,
question.
neither of us are trying to sleep with you. So just
You don't
answer the
speak for
fucking
me.
question.
I mean, saying you could, yeah. I was like, British driver.
If you're not careful.
Yeah. I honestly, man, like I need to travel more. So Patsy and I were
Okay.
actually planning a trip, and Patsy's a big fan of Costco. So let me just give you the background on this.
Who is not a big
Is
fan
she
of
trying to go to
Costco, though?
Kirkland, Washington?
No, so Costco has like a you can book
You can book.
vacations through
Dude, they have
Costco.
everything at Costco, dude. Like
Yeah.
it makes
Yeah.
no sense.
They sell
Yeah,
You could literally-
caskets.
They sell everything at Costco. You could literally go to Costco, buy a wedding ring, propose, get married, book your honeymoon, come back, she's pregnant, 9 months later, you're buying diapers at Costco. Do they think of everything, right?
Yeah, they
It's
have it all.
insidious. It's insidious. So she was like, hey, let's look at some trips. And okay, so today is this was the price for two people
Mhm.
flying economy.
Mhm.
Basically, it was a 14-day trip, and it was
Unacceptable.
Athens.
14 days.
Athens, yeah, Athens.
That's a long time.
Mykonos and babe. What was the other one? Athens, Mykonos. The other one. What was the other place you're going to in Greece? Athens, Mykonos, and what else?
The feminists are not happy about that.
Well, she had the headphones on. I don't want to yell at her. I'm scared. It was Athens, Mykonos, and one other place, which she didn't look it up now. But the point is, though, they
What,
booked the
probably
whole thing.
Santorini.
That sounds familiar, but I do know this. I like history, I like democracy, and I like philosophy. So right, so like really the birthplace
Greece.
of all those things, Greece. Greece.
No.
So I was like, I want to go there. So that's my answer, but it's not. I don't know if it's a place I want to go to most in the world. It's just the place that I feel like I would get the most bang for my buck right now. But if it was free, man, it's tough. I don't know. I never actually been given anything like that. Like I never put myself like, where would I go if I just had unlimited money?
Okay, if you had to
Weird.
pay for the trip, your answer is Greece.
So
Oh yeah.
now that people are like can see us, they can probably. This is more obvious now.
Santorini.
But I judge.
Santorini.
Yeah, but I
Thank you.
judge places based off their food because I very often
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is why no one should
And-
ever go to England.
We're
Yeah.
not small people.
Yeah,
The
best
three of us
meal-
are not.
the best meal I have ever had in my entire life was in Greece,
I can see
in
that.
Really?
Athens. Yes,
In Athens. Wait, were we there
Oh,
together?
babe.
no, this was back when
Christian
I was
just
in high
said
school.
the best meal he's ever had his entire life was in Athens. He's been all over the world.
And he's been all over the world.
He's a world
His
traveler.
opinion matters.
Yeah, because it was a lot of the restaurants there still rely on like local like sources
sourcing?
for their food. So like
Yeah.
we actually had to
So
wait.
it's all fresh.
Yeah, we had to wait for lunch because we literally had to wait for the baker to finish baking the bread and bring it over.
Hell
And
yeah.
like the chicken we had been slaughtered like that morning. Like everything was absolutely as fresh as you could possibly get it, and
Fuck yeah.
it was absolutely
They're just so-
amazing.
A tan
That
boy
sounds
named
cool.
Philip, like free diving to catch fish with his bare hands.
Philippe. It's Philippe.
Philippe,
Philippe
yeah,
Macedon.
Macedon.
yeah, and then
Macedonia.
Mhm.
later when I was there, what's that port town that we go to?
Hania?
Sudabe, Hana.
Oh, Sudabe.
Hania? Yeah,
Is this
Sudabe.
Sudabe?
Sudabe.
Sudabe.
Is, are we sure? No,
it's
Subic
Sudabe.
Bay
Subic
is
Bay
in
is in
the
the
Philippines.
Philippines.
Sudabe.
Sudabe
Yes.
is in Greece, and I
Yes.
had mussels there, and those were also amazing because, as they claimed
I
anyway,
bet,
that they were caught that morning.
I mean, Greece is such a cool place. I mean, there's so much history. I mean, the culture is rich. I mean,
Mhm.
it's because it's so interesting because we learn so much about it. I mean, starting from way back, the mythology of Greece permeates
Going back to God of War.
even, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yes.
Dude, I'm
Circle
gonna-
back to God of War.
I'm gonna make us a little controversial because I learned this in school.
I don't like
the reason
that,
why
but okay.
We know so much about it is because our history is whitewashed. Because obviously,
Well, yeah, of course.
right.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Democracy, and then all the people. So all the stories that we like that have permeated our culture about Greece. Even in my own, I'm guilty of it. It's like Greece,
Yeah.
the fatherland of democracy. Gotta
Yeah,
go,
I mean,
right?
But like,
So-
if you think about it, it makes sense because if you look at how really the world has treated cultures that are not white, part of the
Yeah,
how
like-
part of the world,
You're lame.
yeah, right, like
Basically, right? Yeah,
like-
yeah.
just even by default, like you're just not gonna learn about stuff that didn't happen for the people that were in charge, right? Like no one in the British Empire was thinking to themselves, I really need to learn about African mythology, or I would
Right.
love to know the history of the Sultanate in India, or things like
Right.
that. So
How many people know about the cultures and empires that existed prior to the Romans? Not a lot.
No, I
There
would
were
say not
huge
a lot.
ones in the Middle East, and we
True.
don't really know about them because a lot of our history comes from the Romans
so
because they ended up taking control of a lot of that stuff. So
What's
we know them by
interesting
name, but
is
like
like
the Sumerians.
there's so the Persians were like, they gave birth to dozens of smaller empires that harassed and really met Rome face to face a number of times, and it seems like a lot of times Rome got through stuff just based on their sheer will not to lose. Like that's like they just wanted it more, and really that's what it boils down to most of the time. So it's so fascinating the cultures that that coexisted with the Roman Empire, that people just have no idea. People just assumed that Rome just engulfed the world, and that was that. I mean, there was stuff far and wide going on in the world
Yeah.
that Rome had no idea about.
I never understood fully how Rome just kind of just shit the bed, because they were just like running the show for so long.
Well,
and then they just were just like, you know what?
They divided
too big.
themselves.
it was
They
too
were-
big.
Gonna
They're
suck
too
now.
big. There was a huge power struggle, and it divided Rome. And once Rome became divided, it became weaker.
So
And they were also
Um,
facing battles on multiple fronts.
yeah,
Yeah.
a big thing that
The old
that
Germany
really-
complex. The
Well,
old
yeah,
Germ-
so
we
the
can't-
Germans
don't fight the Russians in winter and don't expand too quickly. There's two rules in empire building.
It's really fascinating because there was a period of time right before the split where it was very clear that you couldn't have just one emperor. Like one emperor was not enough to rule Rome, and I think that was like really a telltale sign that, I mean, you're kind of on the outs, and then you start adding bureaucracy, which Constantine was like the spearhead for adding bureaucracy to the empire. And once you start adding bureaucracy to stuff, red tape, greasing palms, corruption, things of that. I mean, it literally just lives inside of bureaucratic entities, and there's nothing you can do about it at that point. And so you just see a steady decline of the Roman Empire. Especially, I mean, once you
Isn't
split the empire,
Cincinnati, a Roman emperor.
Cincinnatus was not an emperor.
Cincinnatus.
He
What was
was he was a dictator of Rome, early Rome. So he
Yeah.
was not a. So it's not dictator in the term that you're thinking. He was like an elected. He was elected to run the military during a time of crisis, and the term they
Got
used
it.
for that was dictator.
Got
That
it.
was like
That's cool.
that was like way back. That was before the Republic of Rome.
I thought it
that-
I think
Yeah,
it's
I
interesting.
forget
because,
how
like,
much
they
you know
have a place
about
named
this.
Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Yeah. This is like so. I know I read that once. I was like, dude, Cincinnati.
Cincinnatus
like-
was a great general of Rome.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
how wild is that? Like someone's like, whoever named Cincinnati was like, dude,
Let's
that's
name it.
Cincinnati's character. That guy was fucking cool.
I
And a bunch of
bet
other
you-
nerds were like, dude, dope, bro. Like
I
that's
bet
awesome.
you they had no idea. They saw like that word somewhere and they were like, I want to name this Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to get too kind of bring us back on topic. The only one who hasn't answered this question is you, Billy.
True.
Yeah.
If
sorry,
you could
sorry,
go
sorry.
anywhere in the world right now, somebody just said, "Hey, I'm going to buy you a plane ticket." Where would you go?
So maybe not super surprising. I would love to go to Italy, despite some of the reservations I kind of have about it. I've heard that they are very, they can be very unpleasant.
Not as bad
People-
as France was.
Right. Yeah, that and well, like they're very shallow individuals. So like if you're bigger or if you like anything like that, they can be like really fucking rude. But
Mhm.
I do find like Roman history I find very fascinating, and there is a lot of stuff going on there that I would really love to see. And there are a lot of places in the world that I would love to go, right? I'd love to go back to South Africa. I'd love to see North Africa. I would like to see I'd like to see Madagascar if I could. I'd love to see like Borneo and a lot of Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. Like I would love to see. I want to see the world, right? Like
Mhm.
But if I could go, all expenses paid right now, somewhere, I would get my fucking walking shoes and my camera, and I would go to Rome, and I would see as much of Italy as possible, down to Sicily, Sardinia, like all these places that I've listened and read a lot about, and I would just like to see them in person, and then just come home and relax and take that in. I mean, ideally, come home, relax, take that in for a few months, and then go somewhere else. Because to me, I think travel is like the best thing you could ever do
Mhm.
at all. So
I agree.
Yeah, it's really weird how your environment completely crafts your reality, like to the point like you could imagine other things, but
Mhm.
like until you're actually in the thing, you're just like, I don't know,
Yeah, like,
you just don't,
it's you can't
don't
like
see
you can't
it.
fathom it. It's hard to, it's
yeah.
like it's like being rich, right? Like everyone imagines what they think being rich is like, but until you were like rich, and I mean like rich, I mean like multi-millionaire, you have no idea what it's
There
like,
were-
the reality of that.
There are two experiences I've had traveling. They were both in Europe, where like I had seen things, videos of them, pictures of them,
Mhm.
but that still left me absolutely awe-inspired. Was the Statue of David? Seeing that in person, because
Okay,
you
I like
can't
that.
really take in the amount of detail in it until you've actually seen it. Like the fact that he was able to carve like the tendons flexing in the arms and stuff like that.
Who did? Was it Michelangelo?
Yeah. And then
Wow, the turtle was able to do that, man.
yeah. And then the Notre Dame.
No thumbs.
Yeah.
Notre Dame.
But the Notre Dame, just the absolute size of it is,
Dude, so
you'll see
sad it burned.
pictures of it.
So sad.
Yeah, it is really sad that it burned, but just the absolute size of it, it's hard to comprehend like how big and impressive it actually is
Yeah.
until your neck is craned up trying to look at it when you're up close.
I've been there on Assassin's Creed. That's wild, though. I mean, I get what you're saying. For anybody listening to us, if there's any place in the world that I would suggest people go, if you've never traveled, if you're like thinking about going somewhere and you're not sure where to go, I would go to South America and I would see Machu Picchu and any part of the Amazon that you can see, because
whilst it's still there,
that was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had traveling. It's my favorite trip that we've been on. I want to go back to the Amazon during the rainy season so I can see the river at its peak and swollen and all the life that brings. But I mean, I have like thousands of pictures of from the Amazon. I mean, animals. We saw indigenous villages. Man, I can't express. We stayed in a treehouse, so that was top tier.
That's always cool.
We had a local guide. We rode up and down the river. Like, it was just, oh my goodness, man. I loved every second of it. And then Machu Picchu was a little crowded, which was slightly frustrating, and I was definitely feeling the altitude. The altitude sickness was rough. That is no joke, man.
Yeah.
But still super duper worth it, honestly. So yeah, if anybody ever was to ever ask me, hey, where do you suggest I go see? I would say go to South America, go see the Amazon, go see Machu Picchu. Start there.
So talking about traveling, and one of the big things that I fail to do a lot while traveling that I highly recommend, and I think this is going to bring us up to the next thing I want to talk about. Take pictures of what you're seeing, and take pictures of you there, because you will forget a lot of like the cool things that you have seen, because I forget all the time
as you get older. Yes.
Yeah.
Old age is wreaking havoc on my mind.
Talking about
It's
like
weird.
taking pictures and stuff like that, I know this is a hobby that you've started or have been getting into, is photography.
Yeah, and I would say that it's easier than you think to get into.
Roll credits.
Photography is just so fun, and it can seem really daunting at first because so many people are really, really good at it. But you could literally go to Best Buy right now and buy like a $300 camera, which I know $300 is a lot for some people. Really should be for anyone, but depending on where you are in life, it can be a lot. But $300 camera, and it comes with a lens or two lenses, and you can just go and take pictures in your neighborhood, or you can take pictures of your friends if that's what you want to do. You can go to the dog park and take pictures. You can take pictures anywhere, and there are hundreds of thousands of videos probably of how to edit and the best ways to find good light and things like that. I mean, on the internet, the internet is really your friend when it comes to learning something new, and photography is no exception to that.
But if you ask the internet for help, they will make fun of you.
Oh, absolutely. We've all seen the Photoshop requests, how quickly those get out of hand. And like I would like to think that like someone sends them what they asked for, but also makes fun of them on the internet. But I don't. The
Yeah.
internet is a fickle place, and you should just be very careful what you put out
the
in it.
internet is a fickle pickle.
Well, and if you're in a
Copyrighted.
situation where you don't want to like have to worry about lenses and stuff like that, because I think that's a really daunting aspect of it for people too. is You buy these DSLRs and there's all these different lenses. A lot of these companies, especially like Sony and Canon, have really good single lens camera that record in like 4K video. They're more expensive because you're cramming everything into one. But if you don't want to deal with that, like there are options, which I'm currently trying to look into because I'm trying to start another project for like recording and taking pictures and stuff like that.
Right.
And I think it's one of those hobbies that's really intimidating until you actually just do it.
Yeah, and that could be the case for a lot of things, I think. But for this in particular, I would say
sex.
But yeah, it is. I don't know. It's one of those hobbies I think a lot of people want to get into, but I think they get intimidated. I think it's one of those things where there's such a wealth of options that it becomes overwhelming.
Analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Just to the listener out there who's thinking about getting into something, just take the first step, and oftentimes inertia will help you keep moving forward.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
So
I believe
with
just
photography, it is easier than you think to get into. Yeah. Just go out, buy your camera, do your thing. You don't even have to edit the photos yet. Just go take pictures. Mm-hmm. It'll be fun. Or it should be fun, at least.
Yeah.
One would hope.
Just when your friends ask you to take pictures of their weddings, just kindly say no.
Oh no, dude! Do you hear about that story about the photographer who was he took pictures at the wedding, and they didn't offer him a plate, and so he deleted the photos, or he asked for food and they told him no, and there's this big story, and that's kind of how the title of the article read. But what was not made clear was A, is that he was a friend of the bride. B, he was actually a guest at the wedding originally, and the original photographer, bailed on them, and so they asked him last minute to take photos. And all he did, I don't think they paid him, because why would he delete the photos if they paid him for the photos?
Well, my thought is like, even if they paid him, I wouldn't. I still would applaud his decision, paid or not paid. I'm just curious because he's just like, hey, here's your money back. You're not getting your photos. Fuck you, you know. And she can't recreate her wedding, so she's just like, oh, I probably should have been nicer to you for something that's priceless.
Yeah, that's kind of mind blowing. So know, like getting into photography, don't let people treat you like shit just because.
Now, let me ask you guys this question. So I have no interest in photography, and that's where I come. So I say that to preface this ignorant comment. It seems like wedding photographers, again, I am stating this from the person who's not into taking photos, charge way too much. Like I'm talking like I hear like $4,000, $10,000, crazy numbers, thousands of dollars for a wedding thing. And I know when they say, well, okay, if I take 2,000 photos and I spend however much time editing said photos, if you break it down by, X amount of weeks, something like that, like, and going through and doing all the stuff and going through each one and putting it onto a thing and sending it over, it adds up. And I hear that and I go, okay, like, but how hard is it to edit photos? Because having done it, like,
it's pretty difficult. I think.
Is it?
It's not. It's like one of those things. It's not hard to start or to get into, but like it's hard to be good at it. Because it definitely requires a certain kind of eye and ability to manipulate the tools that you have at hand. So like Lightroom and Photoshop, they're not easy things. They're not intuitive at all. Like you can't just open up Photoshop and be like, oh, I know exactly how to do everything. Like there's definitely a learning curve there. So that's actually my least favorite thing to do about taking pictures is editing photos.
Just because it's just not exciting.
It's just not fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
That and a lot of photographers have they'll bring multiple cameras. They'll do videography stuff. If you didn't hire a videographer, they're the ones who are setting up videos to, like getting dressed or like, words for the bride. They do considerable amount, and it's
I'm not saying they don't work.
It's got to be perfect,
I'm just saying like they do one day of work in the actual day and then the editing afterwards, which I don't know how long that takes. I guess at this point, I don't know how long editing takes.
I would say it takes a couple days for several thousand photos.
For me, I'm like, you did 3 days of work and you want $5,000. I'm like, all right.
I mean, you're gonna pay it.
That can get into a whole conversation about how expensive. Just like if you look up places that like venues that specializes, like we're a wedding venue. Like the prices for weddings, right? Like related things are absurdly expensive. And it's because people pay for it.
Okay.
Because the argument
I'm not picking a wedding photographer. Just the whole wedding.
You're just asking a question in general about the pricing wise.
Expensive?
So that's unpopular opinion from me is I think weddings are a fucking scam. I understand that it's like the biggest day, a huge day for you, but why are you going into debt? Why is the first thing you're doing in a marriage going into debt for a single day?
Right.
It doesn't, there's no requirement. It's not written down anywhere that you have to have, 150 people at your wedding, and it has to be, catered by, the people that make salmon for 5-star restaurants and,
Right.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, that was rude to me. I should let you finish.
No. I'm just listing things that I don't agree. Like, I don't agree with spending the money on.
I just forgot about this. So Patsy actually had an idea because her and I were just talking about weddings and stuff, like just like in general. And she was just like, like weddings are really expensive. Like, and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, it'd be really cool is if they had like an Airbnb version for like backyard weddings. And I was like, that would be cool. Like if you could just basically rent out your backyard for a backyard wedding. And you're like, hey, like if you want to use my sat on a Saturday, like maybe like the house is open just for like coming in to like prepare food and use the bathroom or whatever. And then you could just go ahead and use, you come with your own shit, set it up in the backyard, and then you shut down at whatever time, and then that's it. Like I mean, I know like technically that's like a commerce thing, and like the city might be like, no, but like I mean, people have backyard weddings all the time. So why can't you rent out your backyard?
That's what venues do.
Yeah,
that's how venues work.
I attended 2 months ago. I think it was 2 months ago. No, it was a month ago. But the wedding that I attended,
a month ago,
yeah, the wedding that I attended, it was on like an actual property that does other things, but they have that one venue selected out for like weddings. So to provide, not necessarily, I think everything wedding related is overpriced, but I think one of the counter arguments to it, just to like offer up the counter argument, especially for the photography, is what that photographer, like, yeah, it's a lot of money, but you aren't just paying for somebody to take pictures. You're paying somebody for their expertise in how to take these pictures well, and how to edit them well, and how to capture the right moments. Like the argument is that they have done this so much that they know how to like stage the scene, stage the photos, get the right lighting, get the right editing.
They know where to be, like when to be there.
Yeah, they know like the general flow of weddings. And so, hey, this is when I'm going to need to take a picture, and arguing that they have a good eye, that when they build then the packages for you for like your photo album or whatever it is you end up getting from them, that they're going to be able to compile the right photos that look good and make the wedding look good. Now, should they be charging thousands upon thousands of dollars for it? That's debatable, but that is the argument for why you're paying so much.
What's the basement price? Like, and this is a pure economics thing. We're not wedding photographers, but I heard it. I'm kind of, the moment I got emotional when this girl who had never been a wedding photographer, she was a photographer, and she was like, I don't want to do weddings. Like, I was like, oh, I feel like they're lucrative. And she was like, yeah. And she's like, I probably make like a couple $1,000s. And I was like, oh, why don't you do that? She's like, oh, it's a lot of work. Yeah. And I was like, okay, like $2,000 though for a couple days of work. I'm just like, and so I didn't understand, because my mind, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously it's exaggerated, but I'm like, you're not fucking laying bricks here, So it's a lot of money. So then we got into it. And I was like, I don't know. I feel like if somebody who had never been a wedding photographer was like, hey, can I, make some extra money? I'm a photographer, but I don't really, have done this before. Like I told her, I was like, I'd offer him like $500. And she was like, well, you're gonna get a terrible fucking service. I was like, yeah, they never done it before. Like, so I guess my question is, what is the acceptable low level amount to offer somebody before you just get insulting, before you become that guy who's like,
well,
there's like you're just an asshole, like offering way
you
too
shouldn't be
little for someone's
offering.
service.
You shouldn't be offering. So like you would go and you would say, I need a wedding photographer, and someone would come to you and they would say, anybody who's professional would come to you and say, okay, I'll I can do this gig on this day. What time do you want me to be there? And you say, oh, I'd like you to be here like while we're getting dressed, or like when everybody's getting ready. Okay, so you want me to be there for
8 hours.
8 hours, right? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So my rate for 8 hours or for per hour is this. Or if I'm doing
but like, if it's $50 an hour, right? Like, is that low? That's what I'm wondering. Is that
that's
low
why
money?
that's why you shop around. But like my
yeah.
big red flag for procuring any service for anything is if I can't get a quote, if their immediate response is, well, what would you pay me? That tells me I'm not dealing with a professional. Even if they're not a professional wedding photographer, if they consider themselves a photographer and they have done paid work in the past, they should have a ballpark idea on how much money.
And being a wedding photographer is not easy, but and just knowing a little bit about photography in general and how wedding and having been to weddings, I would say that being a wedding photographer fucking sucks most of the time. I mean, a lot of times people have been doing it for a long time and they're comfortable with it. They know what they're getting into, but I mean, you literally spend the whole wedding on your feet, running around trying to catch these moments, and all of that is augmented by the stress that if you don't do a good job, the person who hired you may flip the fuck out, may decide they don't want to pay you, may give you a bad review, which if with a service like this, reviews are huge for you. So there's a lot of pressure there, I think, and in general, if you take pride in your work, you don't want to fuck that up. And so
sure,
I don't know. I mean, I think you're asking a good question, because like there's no handbook, for how much you should be paying for, this service or that service, photography included. So
yeah, it is, because that's how you end up getting people that end up spending, $20,000 for a wedding.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That is fucking absurd. Can we like take a moment to like think about like spending $20,000 on a wedding?
Dude, when people have like 100 people plus at their wedding, I'm like, who 100 people that like you that much, like that will
right?
Like that's crazy.
How many people were at my wedding? There was like
just going for like the food or the alcohol. Like there's a free party.
I don't know. Your wedding was
people.
Your wedding was a haze.
There's 25 people at the ceremony, and then there was, I think, maybe 50 people at the reception.
Sure.
And I don't think I talked to everybody, and I tried.
I remember showing up to the reception, and that's where my memory fades.
Well, I'm glad
because you had an open bar, and I utilized every bit of it.
It's great. It was a good time.
It was. Made a lot of friends that I don't remember.
Made a couple enemies apparently too.
Yeah, I did.
It's okay. She doesn't listen to the podcast. I'm not worried about it.
What was the thing you said that was like the stamp of fuck you?
What did Grizz say?
I mean, there had to have been like a moment where she was like, okay.
I don't know. A mildly delusional person.
Yeah.
All right. I'll let it be. Let sleeping dogs lie. I got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So yeah, I guess really what this boils down to, don't pay too much for a wedding photographer, but no one knows the answer to what too much is. And if you're thinking about getting into photography, just go get a camera and fucking do it, because it's not fucking hard. Go out and take pictures. Have a good time. Go see stuff that you haven't seen before. So
yeah, use it as an excuse to get you to places that you probably normally wouldn't have gone to before.
Okay. So what's up?
You guys want to make a hard transition, a hard left, if you will?
I don't at all.
But I do. Let's do it.
Please, by all means.
Do you guys want to talk about HR 40?
Let me Google it really quick so I'm not talking out of my ass.
Sure.
Oh, that's a comforting search. All right.
HR 40, California, right?
It is. The reparations bill.
Let's see. Let's go to congress.gov. Reliable source.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
People that work there
HR 40
never lie.
is Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act is the name of the act, which is HR 40. And let's see. It's sponsored by Representative Jackson Lee from
Strong
Texas.
name. That's a strong name.
So there,
Jackson Lee.
I have this one from CalMatters.org. California First in Nation Task Force to identify reparations, said business loans, housing grants, tuition, wage, and job protections could provide redress for African Americans.
Okay, so what would you like to talk about, Snowy? Since this is your car to drive. So
okay, so when, and this is like one of a million examples, when the Hispanics that were in Texas were living here, and then like when America, took Texas from Mexico, they were like, hey, you guys can live here. You already had land, and then like some asshole, like sergeants, whoever the fuck, they're like, yeah, I can't read this gobbledygook lease that you made. This is bullshit. You don't live here.
Mhm.
And they just took their land, right? And that happened to a ton of ranchers who'd been living here and were legally allowed to stay here for a long time. And that's one of the, I don't know, man, how many hundreds, thousands of atrocities, going back.
right.
The path to democracy and freedom and free speech is littered with atrocities and blood and bodies. So it's not that it's, I don't think people shouldn't get it. It's just the question is like the slippery slope argument, right? Which isn't always a strong argument. I do wonder, like, does it stop, right? Should it stop here? It shouldn't stop at all. It's just, for me, I'm just like, whenever I hear this, I'm just like, when does a conversation stop? Or what is there ever a timeline? Is there ever a date? Is there like, hey, if we don't do it within the next 20 years, then we can never do it ever again? Or like, is it always on the table for the people that, for the families that lived in Mexico? Is it always on the table for the, anybody who had anything that was done to them by the US government? Even if you go back 100 years, right?
Mhm.
And I have it's kind of a weak analogy, but it's the best one I can kind of think of on the spot. I think, imagine if, our grandchildren basically got mad because, say, I loaned you $20, Billy, and you never paid me, right? And they're like,
Mhm.
let's say, like, they're like, hey, according to like in his notebook, he's still pissed that you loaned you $20 like 80 years ago, and I want to collect. I want to collect from your grandchildren, right? That would be ridiculous. Right? It'd be ridiculous. Like they would just laugh at you, like, what, bro? Like, our grandparents are dead. Like, you're not going to collect my money from my grandparents. Like, well, technically, like, they would have left that money to my dad, and then of course they would have left that money to me. And if you factor in like interest or investing or whatever, right? Like, I should get something for that. And the argument would be a very good point from your grandchildren or vice versa, saying like, dude, they're dead. It didn't happen to me. I didn't do it. How are you going to collect directly from me? Even though you might argue that like maybe I inherited that money, right? And that's a direct lineage. That's a very clear, like, I gave it to my son, he gave it to his son, and then our sons are basically like, hey, I want it from each other. And that still wouldn't hold up. It wouldn't hold up in court. It wouldn't hold up in casual conversation. People would just go like, dude, that's the past, let it go. So that's my kind of weak analogy for this, and I present it to you like that.
I think my argument partly against that would be you loan in like somebody that $20, is it still negatively impacting, right? So what we're looking at right now, and why reparations continue to be a subject of conversation, is that the treatment of certain groups of minorities, or really all minorities in America, still has cascading effects today where it can
Sure.
limit and still negatively impacts those communities. Um,
But isn't that a
and
separate conversation unto itself? Like, shouldn't you address the thing that's causing the negative impact?
so
If
I agree, but one of the proposed solutions would be reparations, right? One of the proposed solutions, if you because
but it,
what HB 40 is,
but that's not
and
stopping
what
any of the problems that are currently happening. It's just
well,
saying here's money.
so what HB
Sorry.
40 is, right?
Yeah.
HB 40 isn't reparations. It's not
No,
saying we're
it's
giving reparations. It's a task force to study
yeah.
if these types of
Well,
reparations would help.
right. And how much they should give, if at any at all.
Right.
Right.
And I agree. I think what you kind of fall into sometimes, not you specifically, but just you as like a general term,
Mhm.
what people fall into sometimes is what's known as like the perfectionist fallacy, whereas this solution isn't perfect, therefore it shouldn't be done. And I think even if you do a little bit and it helps a little bit, it's better than not doing anything. Right. So even if, for argument's sake, something like reparations don't fully fix the disparities that exist in today's America, it's
Mhm.
still better than just not doing anything. And you're right. We should address those other things and try to fix those other things.
Sure.
But that isn't an argument against doing something else that could
No, I
also help.
agree. But we're not saying in reparations like, hey, there's these issues that are happening to the Black community, and this is going to solve it. They're not even saying that. They're basically just saying like, hey, the things that happened in the past cost because of because the ability to basically pass down wealth was robbed from so many families that we want to basically take the people that exist today, probably from like the upper middle class tax bracket and above. We want to go ahead and essentially punish them because of the perceived the perception that they have inherited wealth.
How is it punishing them?
If it's a tax, is it not a punishment?
So if they're only
Where's that
taxing
money?
a
Where's that
certain
money coming
portion,
from?
so if it's only taxing a certain portion of the population, sure.
Yeah, I said
Uh,
upper. Yes, I said upper middle
but
class is what I said, right, and
but
above.
that's not what this is necessarily calling for. What this study does look into is not just slavery, but the continued mass incarceration, police actions, and widening wealth gap between blacks and whites.
No, and again, that's great. But
Yeah,
specifically reparations. I guess like HR 40 is a bill. I'm not arguing against HR 40. I'm saying the one section where it says we should give $233,000. This is Californians. I don't live in California. They could give $1 million, bro. It would not affect me at all. I think about that and I go like, is that fair to anybody who's getting taxed for things that you can't say they directly benefited from? Like if they are a first generation immigrant and they are in the upper middle class and their tax bill went up X amount, and they go, well, why? Like, why am I paying more money out of my own pockets for things I didn't do? And they go like, because you're an American. And it's like, is that fair? And it's not saying like, hey, this is going to stop all the things that are currently happening. It's just saying we're going to transfer wealth from one group of Americans to another group of Americans because of something that happened so long ago that no one's even alive from that time. And I'm not saying that like we shouldn't address a lot of things or give money or set up schools or deal with the mass incarceration or dealing with redlining. Like all those things should be dealt with. But the just handing out money thing, the government forcibly taking money from you and giving it to somebody else, to me, I guess doesn't sit well with me and
I
probably a lot of other Americans.
think it just depends on your perspective of the role in government, right? So like, for example, one thing that I think we should be doing is, a universal health care. I think everybody, a part of their tax payout should
Agreed.
go to some form of universal health care.
Agreed.
And, when we talk about disparities with people, is reparations the answer? I don't know. I'm not an expert on it, which is why I think they set up this task force. But I do think it would be a good conversation to see like, hey, where would that money come from? Are we diverting money from somewhere else to pay
Well,
that we probably
have
don't?
to, right?
Yeah. I would argue that we could probably divert money from a lot of like the prison systems, right? The privatized prison systems and stuff like that are completely over capacity. There's a lot of ways to get this money without immediately going to the knee-jerk reaction of, well, they're going to tax a certain tax bracket.
So
to
if
pay
they
for it.
decided to do this, let's say that we went through this whole process and they said every American or every family who has a direct who is a direct descendant of a slave in the United States, which
Well,
is
this is
probably
not this bill, just so we're clear. But if we talked about that
yes.
conversation, we can talk about that.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about because you said your issue is you stated just a moment ago it does not sit well with you the idea of taking money from somebody else from one group of people and giving it to another group of people for something that happened in the
Mhm.
past, right?
Mhm.
So if the government the the big government in the sky said we're not going to tax we're not taxing Americans specifically for this, we're going to cut back on spending uh the military spending. We're going to cut back on wherever they can find space to cut back to make this money appear without directly taxing citizens. Do you still have a problem with it?
Okay. I will go with the hypothetical that they could do that, right? So that's a lot of
Yes,
money, and I don't
it's a
necessarily think they
hypothetical.
could.
Yeah.
I think the numbers would be tough to do. But in that case, then if you could say, hey, we're not going to be any less safe, which I'm one of those people who believes the military is already too big. I don't think we're in any direct threat of being attacked anytime soon. So, I mean, yeah, you could probably cut back a lot of things and give it. I think, when you look at our handouts over the last 25 years to countries and what do you call it, like assistant packages.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah.
If you just gave that to the inner
Billions of
city
dollars.
black people, if you just said, hey, just any black people making less than X dollar amount, we're just going to help you out just because, like, we don't want you to be poor. And there's actually some clear connections between how much money you have and how much stress you have and how smart you are. There's actually, like, it's weird. I mean, it sounds crazy to say it, but there's real studies that have been done that your IQ drops when you're stressed out by survival all the time. You're not using your full faculties.
Yeah,
because you're just thinking about
the
your primal,
survival part of your
right.
brain, not the
So if you could just
subprimal.
get those people out of that, I would agree with that. I think there's a lot of ways to, like,
Yeah,
help
but
out that.
that's a whole nother conversation in and of itself
there's
because you
people
can't
out
just
there
give
that are,
people money. You can't just
yeah. Do you give a millionaire who's black? Do you give somebody who's a quarter black? Do you give somebody who's 10%? Like, where's the? I guess my thing is, where's the
yeah,
quarter?
I mean,
Where's the cutoff line, right?
There's
And
a conversation. That's a
right.
different conversation. But like, you can't just show up in downtown, like Gary. Let's say Gary, Indiana. You can't just show up in downtown Gary, Indiana, with a box truck with $60 million to hand out to every person there, and then hope that they are hope that these people that have never had money before in their lives are responsible enough to ensure that they can get themselves out of poverty or change their situation. Sure, there'll be lots of people that do. There'll be lots of people that try, but education is just as important as money, right?
Yeah.
And if you never learned how to, if you don't have a bank account, or you never written a check before, or you've never fucking filed taxes before, like this, this is a thing that's not, you can't just hand people, $225,000 and say, good luck.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna turn around and have to take it back because you committed, tax fraud, or because they went out and they bought the fucking fucking Bugatti, or like whatever people do that are irresponsible with money. And this isn't just black people or people in the inner city, people in general.
You're just young and you don't know how to deal with anything over $10,000 and you get a flush of cash. You're gonna go buy something. I mean, there's actually
well, look how many people have won the lottery and don't have that
and
money
gone
anymore.
broke.
Yeah.
Prime example.
This is a quick story. I forget the exact athlete, but basically famous athlete now. He made $1 million his first year in the league. I think it was an NBA player. Might have been Shaq. Anyways, he bought a house. He made $1 million. He bought a house and he bought, like, his family all Cadillacs. And
it was Shaq. It was Mercedes. He bought his whole family Mercedes. Yeah.
And like a couple of days later, his accountant called him and was like, "You literally have no money." And he was like, "How's that possible? I got $1 million." He's like, "You owe $370,000 in taxes." He's like, "What?" Like, nobody, that's not his fault. No one. I mean, I wouldn't have known that at whatever he was, 19, 20. So. I mean, I don't think it's like necessarily a black thing. I think it's definitely just like a young person's thing, people poverty thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
One thing this article talks about, and I think it makes a good point about this, is it says that they're looking at a lot of these payouts being in like business loans, housing grants, tuition. So not directly handing people money, but putting them more into packages to allow people to
See,
like
I,
buy a
okay,
house.
I mean, I should read it. I should read it more. That's a good way of doing it.
Well, it also just depends. Like, I don't
How-
like this is
well, we
straight
don't know how it's
from
gonna shake out.
calmatters.org, which is where a lot of like California political stuff gets posted. Because
Mhm.
I'm from California, that's why I know about that site.
Mhm.
But you know, and so something like that I think would also be a good idea, where it's like we're not just throwing money at people and saying, hey, figure it out. It's like this money will be available for you,
Right.
to specifically to like build off of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not just like I'm handing
I had
you
a-
a $250,000 check. You have to.
Yeah, because I'm in favor of reparations, but like again, like, and I told Billy this like years ago. I think you should give every Black American who's a quarter Black and up for the next 50 years free state school tuition to college for a 4-year college. Like that's it. Like they're like, here you go. You want to fucking get a leg up? You want a massive, basically a GI Bill, just because you were born Black in this country? That's a huge benefit, right? And I know like, well, not everyone can benefit from it, and like, you know, that's putting like too much whatever on school. But there's such a correlation between getting a degree and being a higher income person that, like, you know,
It's
and people
interesting
that
though.
yeah.
You say that, and I thought about it. I've thought about it since we last talked, and I wonder what the change in the job market would be if all of a sudden you have all these kids who can go to school for free and who are going to school for free and getting degrees and coming out. I mean, because we talked about like the relevance of a bachelor's degree, right? Even now, right? And that's
you can make the same argument, like you can open it up to trade schools.
You can do trade schools, but
absolutely.
Just free education, I should say.
I like
to
the
a
idea.
higher.
It's just, how would it affect the world going forward? You know, like,
I mean,
it's not a negative. It's just an interesting question.
Yeah,
I just felt like it basically I loved it because I feel like even deep right Republicans could palate like, hey, this will benefit Americans on the whole. Is a higher, more educated group of people that are all rising tides lift all boats is my general perception, right?
Right.
And I think just giving cash to people who are going to spend it on,
what's
honestly
the
blow
Dave
it in
Chappelle
5 years.
Dave Chappelle episode.
I mean, yeah, that's
a joke, right? Like
it's a joke.
It's a joke, but like,
how close to reality would that be, right? For not every, I mean, maybe it's 20% or 5% of the population.
Yeah.
But
it's hard to say how many, but yeah.
Right. And they just go like, okay, they went and they spent it on things that didn't actually benefit them, right? So you took money from one group of people and they went out and they bought ridiculous things, and they're like, and of course that's what will make the news, not the people that went to college. And that's why,
or not the people building homes, or not the people investing in apartment complexes or whatever. Yeah, you're right.
It'll be the guy who OD'd day one, right? Like, oh, guy OD'd day one. See what happens, guys.
And like,
10 more people OD'd. That's all they would talk about.
And that's a question. I mean, that's the media, the state of the media right now, right? It's all wow factor. I mean, you can see it if you go to like the Samsung phones have the ability to look at articles, on your phone. If you slide all the way to the left, there's just articles, and it's buzzwords and
it's whatever's going to get your eyes.
Eye grabbing articles or titles that are put out there, and so that falls in line with what we should do going on.
For eye grabbing articles, Grizz, because you're our editor in chief, you should like title this like multicultural group discusses reparations on podcast, and just do that in the tag, and there's like the people who listen to the whole thing like, when the fuck are they going to talk about reparations? Not
the last 20 minutes of it.
I was thinking about putting in the tag, Emily Lefroy, we're coming for you.
I honestly think
we have beef with Emily Lefroy now, and
dude, put on there like Danny's fighting Jeff Bezos in the boss round, but leading up to that, he's fighting Emily Lefroy, he's fighting Elon Musk, he's fighting Dave Portnoy, and then the boss round will be, fighting Jeff Bezos. So if you put that out there too.
But yeah,
hopefully Emily Lefroy reads this or watches.
I kind of hope.
I'm going to figure out a way to tag. I'm going to find her Twitter. I'm going to fucking tag her in it.
She's gonna be like, "What the fuck did I do to these guys?" I'm just trying to write articles, and these fucking three
Dude.
dweebs who can't even
She
figure
just-
out backgrounds are talking
just
shit
roasts
about
me.
me.
She's like, listen here, you chubby
She's
beard
gonna-
fuck. You
she's
know, and I'm
gonna-
like, damn, Emily.
She's gonna see this video and copyright strike us for the WWE shit
Dude.
in the background.
Oh yeah, probably that.
I love it. Yeah. It's like, that's not the real Ric Flair.
Woo!
Woo! All right, boys.
But with that,
And
all
that's-
that said, hopefully we've given our huge fan club something to think about in terms of reparations, and we'd love to hear about it. Join the
Yeah, that should be
Discord.
cool. If there's anybody that like genuinely watched this whole thing, if they could like be like, hey man, like I think fucking Snowy B's a fucking moron. I'd be like, dude, tell me all about it. I want to hear it. Tell me.
Tell me in the Discord.
Yep.
Make me a better person in the Discord.
In
And
the
if you're
Discord.
looking
not in
for
real
the-
life.
Yeah, if you're looking for the Discord, you can follow
I'll
us
beat you
on our
up.
Instagram at the Barely Coherent Podcast, written the exact same as this podcast title. And in there is our link tree with our Discord.
Yeah.
So to close it out, I would like to know, what you guys are looking forward to for the week, and give me some positive stuff. That's what I want.
I got you. I'll go first. I got
Okay.
a show tomorrow, so I'm doing a craft show for Battle Shots tomorrow.
Okay, we love that.
Yep. So I did like I did a nice amount of sales last week at here in Gretna, and then I'm going to West Wego, which is like a little town over tomorrow. Which I found out this evening. I was doing it. Like they messaged me like, "Hey, spot's open." I was like, "All right, sign me up." And then on Wednesday, I have a really big show. It's like a holiday festival that they're putting on in the convention center, where they have like a huge ice rink, and they have like a bunch of like, I don't know, like ice themed shit going on for all the kids. And
Nice,
it's like,
dude.
It's like 10 days long, but I'm only gonna do like 5 days of it because it goes from like
That
5
sounds like
days
a lot.
prior to Christmas, yeah, and then runs like 4 days after, whatever. So 5 days after, and I was like, nah, I'm good. So just gonna do 5 days. Just gonna do, I think, leading up to Christmas Day. And
That's
then,
neat.
So that's
That's
So
awesome.
I want to gonna do some sales, and I want to share one last thing. This may be a little bit wordy, and I promise I'm not gonna take too long. I want to do after Mardi Gras. I want to go on tour with Battle Shots, and here's how I'm gonna do it. Right, playing Battle Shots by itself as a challenge, as a game, like as a Battle Shots tournament. Not super excited about doing that, and I've been battling with doing a Battle Shots tournament for a while because you're gonna get fucking too drunk, and then I'm gonna get sued, right? So I was like, I didn't want that, right? How many shots are you gonna actually do in a three round tournament, right? So instead, what I decided to do is I augmented it, and I said, I could do a bar game challenge, right? So you could say, hey, you're gonna play like hooks or flip cup, and that's round 1, and then Battle Shots round 2, and then I don't know, like cornhole round 3, right? And then the winner of that gets $50, $100, a free game, whatever, right? And then I could just host it at certain bars. There's already one place that said, hey, we could do that here. So the last part of that idea was, what if I could go ahead and copy the model of Mr. Beast? Super grandiose name to throw out there, and you can compare myself to that. I know, but the model itself, which was, he said, what is the most long-running shows on TV, basically? Right? What are the most long-running shows on TV? I'll let you guys take the floor.
I don't know, like The Simpsons.
Okay. Simpsons, like daytime TV. Think like daytime TV.
Like Wheel of Fortune,
Yeah.
Jeopardy.
Wheel of Fortune, a game show, Jeopardy game show, right?
Yeah.
So shows like that, right? They obviously have ones like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and then of course Mr. Beast, if you don't know, was one of the richest YouTuber on YouTube, and was just offered $1 billion for his channel, actually, and he turned it down.
He turned it
and
down. I saw that video. Yeah.
Yeah, he turned it down. So all he does is give money away for crazy deeds. I was like, what if I got sponsors using their brand on everything to give away like an ATV, whoever wins this bar game challenge at whatever local big popular bar in the area. And then in the process, it's like, so I'll be like, hey, like the Battle Shot bar game challenge presented by Sailor Jerry, right? And then they give away, I say, hey guys, all you have to do is pay for the ATV or pay for 3 cases of Sailor Jerry, right? Like you're just giving away, a shit ton of alcohol or like some like electric scooter or fucking a Ferrari, whatever. And we'll record the whole thing. And then because there's already a proven model of YouTube, people tuning in to people beating each other for ridiculous games, maybe this could generate some traction. So I'm not going to start that until like April, but I'm really leaning into that. So that's kind of something I'm kind of excited about. Still in the fucking idea phase of it all, but I'm trying to manifest that right now. So
All right. Well, we'll definitely manifest that for you as well.
cool.
In my thoughts and prayers. So
Thank you. Do you guys think it was a good idea though? Like, what do you?
yeah, I
I
think it's a
actually
good
think
idea. I think it's a great idea.
great
That's
idea.
I'm being genuine. I
Oh.
think that it's a good idea to essentially use someone else's money to make things happen while still making them money. You know, like it's not like
Right.
they're investing in this and not getting anything out of it. They're getting
And
You're
advertisement.
taking a proven model,
Yeah.
which
And-
should be
and for-
easier to get people on board.
I agree. And you guys know this. I have a converted van, but for you guys don't know, I could just basically drive around in my converted van and stay in that for effectively free, minus the cost of gas. So I could travel around to a bunch of bars, just send them emails before I get there, set it up, and say, hey, post your Instagram. There's going to be a bar game challenge. We're giving away $10,000 and cash prizes to whoever wins, like hooks, whatever. You could do like giant Jenga, drunk Jenga, fucking cornhole, so on and so forth, right? And then people will just be like, what the fuck? I'm making $10,000 to play some bar games this weekend? Dude, let's go that. And of course, it'll say Battle Shots Bar Game Challenge presented by Sailor Jerry. And then I could put that on the side of my van. And then, of course, put it all on YouTube. And then Sailor Jerry would just get whoever, right? Could do a celebrity alcohol. He gets a fuck ton of it. So that's the pitch. I want you guys to have your turn now. Thank you for listening.
You should have gone.
Yours
loud.
better be shorter. Yeah.
Yeah, mine's definitely shorter.
Sorry.
Mine is, so the thing I'm excited for within next week is just taking a vacation.
Nice.
I'm going back to Washington State to spend some time with the family, see my parents and my brothers, and really just
Cool.
relax, which is something that I really need.
Very cool. Yeah.
In the long term, I have another project that I will be working on that I am very excited for. And once it has taken more form, I'll start putting it out there. I've already talked to you, Billy, about it. And at some point, I'd like to clue you guys, like involve you two in some capacity, which we can talk about later. But that's something I get really excited when I have new projects coming up.
Yeah, I want to hear about it.
Yeah, it allows me to
tell me the deets.
Yeah, it kind of allows me to point my mind in a more positive and constructive direction, and
We always like that.
Yeah,
I like that. I do like that.
Also, it's prescribed Lunesta, so I sleep like a motherfucker.
Medication.
Yeah,
Lovely.
What about you, Billy?
Billy.
So,
Billy.
as probably most of our listeners already know, I got out of the Navy 2 weeks ago, and I had an interview this past Monday that went really well, and so I'm hoping that I'll have my second interview next week, and hopefully that will be the solidification of getting a new job.
Hell yeah.
Which I'm really looking forward to. And one of the big things for me getting out of the Navy was that I wasn't really satisfied with my job anymore. I love flying. I love what I did, but all the extra stuff was really like bogging me down.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that I'll be doing the same thing that I was doing work-wise in the Navy, but in a much better environment. So really looking forward to that. And really like until I start this job, what I'm looking forward to the most in terms of the short long term is relaxing, which is something that I haven't really got to do for the holidays or any really extended period of time since I joined the Navy 11 and a half years ago. So
oh yeah, you deserve it, buddy.
I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah,
some R&R, baby.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, guys. So we end this episode with a Ric Flair woo. Count of three. Count it out. Count it out. 1, 2, 3. Woo!